Welcome everyone, and we are going to take a look at the second reading from this past Sunday. A reading from the first letter of St. Paul to the Thessalonians. We do not want you to be unaware, brothers and sisters, about those who have already fallen asleep, so that you may not grieve like the rest who have no hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose, so too will God, through Jesus, bring with him those who have fallen asleep. Indeed, we tell you this on the word of the Lord, that we who are alive, who are left until the coming of the Lord, will surely not precede those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord himself, with a word of command, with the voice of an archangel, and with the trumpet of God, will come down from heaven, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive, who are left, will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. Thus we shall always be with the Lord. Therefore, console one another with these words. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So, as I said a couple of weeks ago, St. Paul's letter to the Thessalonians was the first writing made in the New Testament. And it was written probably in the year 50. Now, at that time, the early Christians believed that they were all going to be alive when Jesus came back. They thought Jesus' second coming was going to be soon. But some of their brothers and sisters in the Lord started to die, and this was not what they expected. 10 years later, when Paul is writing, his message has changed. Paul is starting to realize that Jesus may not be coming back soon. And so now he starts to teach the people to be patient and to live holy lives as they wait for the second coming. Anyway, someone must have told Paul that the Christians in Corinth were really becoming preoccupied with the Christians who died. So Paul needs to address this issue. And by the way, they're just babies in the faith. They don't know everything. So there's a crisis, there's a problem, and that always necessitates Paul's response in a letter. So this is what Paul says. We do not want you to be unaware, brothers and sisters, about those who have fallen asleep, so that you may not grieve like the rest who have no hope. So Paul is saying, listen, you have to grieve. When a loved one dies, we all grieve. But don't grieve like the pagans who do not have a hope of an afterlife. That's what Paul is saying here. They don't have any hope. So grieve, but grieve with hope that one day those who have died and you will be reunited. Now he's going to tell us why we should have hope. If we believe that Jesus died and rose from the dead, so too will God, through Jesus, bring with Jesus all those who have fallen asleep. If God raised Jesus from the dead, he's going to raise them from the dead as well. Indeed, we tell you this on the word of the Lord. This is Paul saying we're absolutely confident about this, that we who are alive and who are left until Jesus comes, we don't precede them, or we don't have anything over them. We're all equal before the Lord, whether we have died or whether we're still living. Now, Paul is going to get a little apocalyptic. Paul is going to use imagery from apocalyptic literature to try to explain what's a mystery. Paul doesn't know how those who have died and those who are living are going to get reunited with Christ, so he just uses some apocalyptic imagery. For the Lord himself, with a word of command, with the voice of an archangel, okay, voice of an archangel, the trumpet of God, he will come down from heaven. You know, lots of times we think that we're going up to heaven. Here, Paul is saying Jesus, who's seated at God's right hand in heaven, will come down from heaven, and the dead will rise first. So they're going to meet up with Christ. Then we who are alive, who are left, we will be caught up together as well. And we will meet the Lord in the air. So like in the atmosphere. Don't know what that means, but there'll be some mystical union with those who have died and with Christ. Thus we shall always be with the Lord for the rest of time. Therefore, console one another with these words. So, that's the teaching of Paul in this part of the letter to the Thessalonians. So, what can we learn from this and how can we put it into practice? Well, this is the month of November, and it's a month that we Catholics traditionally call the month of All Souls. And during the month of November, we intentionally try to think about the last things, basically. We try to think about, in this case, our loved ones who have died. So I would encourage you to do something to think about those who have died and to pray for them. We know that there are those people who are already in heaven, and we believe that there are the just, the saints who have died, who are being purified of any sins they may have committed, and we say that takes place in purgatory. We know purgatory is not a place, it's not a physical reality, but it's an existence where people are purified of any stain from sin. And as Catholics, during the month of November, we also pray and we sacrifice for those people who are in purgatory, especially those who may be family and friends. So I would encourage you to remember and to be grateful and to offer prayers of gratitude for your loved ones who have died and those people who have impacted your life, family, friends, coaches, teachers, people who have inspired you. Be grateful for them. And also pray and offer sacrifice for those people as well. So that's one thing that we can do. You know, another thing that we can do is, and this is another part of our tradition in the Catholic Church, is to visit cemeteries. And to visit the cemetery where friends or relatives are buried and pray for them and pray with them. So I would encourage you to do that as well. Find some time and visit a cemetery, maybe where your parents are buried or grandparents or a dear friend, and pray for them there. So, also, I think it is important that we don't lose hope. You know, hope is the strongest four-letter word in the English language. And as Christians, we have hope in heaven. And that adds comfort and consolation, especially when a loved one has died. So, you know, we often hear about the three cardinal virtues, the virtue of faith and love. We often don't hear a lot about hope, but it's very, very important. And if, you know, Paul says, if our hope in Christ is limited to this world, we are the most miserable of men. So really, our hope is in heaven. And because of this hope, we believe that because of Christ's goodness and God's grace, we'll meet up with our loved ones in heaven one day. God bless everyone.